Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's Friday again, and this time it's Parashat Vaetchanan. In our parasha, we have a very, very famous pasuk, probably the most famous verse in all of Jewish liturgy. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And obviously, of course, the paragraph that comes after that, which many, many Jews know off by heart, V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, etc., etc. But today I'm not going to talk about that. I would like to talk about the paragraph that comes after that, which is not, by the way, the paragraph that we usually say in the Siddur, V'haya im Shema Tishma'un, which that will appear in later parashiyot. But rather, it is a different parashiyah. V'haya ki yaviacha Adonai Elohecha el haaretz asher nishba la'avotecha la'Avraham, liYitzchak, liYaakov, latet lach. When God will bring you to the land, v'haya ki yaviacha, when God will bring you to the land of Israel, to the land that He promised your forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, latet lach, to give to you, in many ways, bringing to a close the 5 books of Moses, right? The Chamisha Chumshei Torah, starting with Bereshit and ending here with Dvarim. This is a fulfillment of Sefer Bereshit. All of the promises that God gave to the patriarchs, to the Avot, are coming true here with the Jewish people about to enter the land of Israel. But that is all the introduction. When that happens, Vaya kiviacha, right? When God brings you to the land of Israel, latet lach, arim gdolot v'tavot asher lo banita. There will be big cities, good cities, strong buildings and infrastructure that you did not build. Ubatim meleim kol tuv asher lo mileta. And you will come and you will conquer lands and you will gain access to all of the resources that you did not invest in. You did not sow the fields, and yet you will arrive and you'll be able to harvest the fields. And you will find water cisterns and wells, kramim v'zeitim asher lo natata, orchards, and all of these things. And you will eat and you will be satisfied. By the way, this phrase "v'achalta v'savata" will later come again in Dvarim or Berachta, right? And when you eat and are satisfied, you need to do Birkat Hamazon, which is, by the way, something we mentioned in Birkat Hamazon. Ka'akatu v'achalta v'savata u'berachta et Hashem Elokecha al haaretz hatova asher natan lach. You will thank God and be grateful for everything that He's given you. But here comes the next line: Hishamer lecha. Be careful. Pen tishkach et Adonai asher otzicha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim. Don't forget God, who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Et Hashem Elokecha tira v'oto ta'avod u'b'shmo tishaveh. Worship God, right? Fear God, and swear by God, as in see your life as a constant mentioning and a constant existence in the presence of God. Lo tilchu nachei Elohim acharim, do not go after false idols, and so on and so forth. Pen yechareh af Adonai Elohecha b'cha v'yishmidcha me'al pnei adama. Because if you go after foreign idols, then God will take care of it, and you will be destroyed, and you will be cast out of your land. Now, there are 2 ways of reading these verses. One is this punishment. If X, then you will be kicked out of the land, and God will replace you, and God will send you into exile. It seems clear from many other places in Tanakh that this is punishment for idol worship. But I think here there is something deeper hidden, a deeper idea which we very often don't talk enough about. And that is, there's 2 things going on here. There is the going after other idols, but there is the first stage that comes beforehand. I remember I came across a podcast the other day with a marriage consultant, right, a marriage counselor, and he said, people often ask me, what is the most disastrous thing that can happen to bring a marriage to a close, to destroy a marriage, to bring it to divorce. And he says, people often think that what brings marriages to a close is the act of cheating or the act of betrayal. And he says, that's not actually it. What actually brings the marriage down is distance. is this frigidity that sets in, this kind of disconnect. And what happens very often is that because there is a disconnect, that allows and that in many ways facilitates the betrayal. But the betrayal is a symptom of a deeper malaise, and that deeper malaise is disconnect. So to here with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There are two things that went wrong here. There is the cheating, right? There is the going after other idols. There is the casting your eyes. There is the betrayal of the Jewish religion, the Jewish values, and the Jewish ethics. That is the act of cheating. And by the way, this is often a terminology that is used throughout the Tanakh as if we have a relationship with God and we have betrayed God, we have cheated on God, right? That's a very common phrase. But first comes Pen Tishkach et Hashem Elokecha. This disconnect, this feeling of this forgetting God, stepping away from God. One of the biggest challenges for us in the modern Western world is that God does not exist in our lives. If we were to go back to the Middle Ages, or we were to go back even to the Renaissance, or even earlier, if you were to catch a certain human being on the street and you were to ask him, who are you? Very much part of his identity would be his religion. You were either Christian or Muslim or Jewish or pagan or any of the sorts. Today in the Western world, the vast majority of the Western world is in many ways what people would call godless. God is not present in their lives. Even if they may even claim to believe in God, as very many people say, oh yeah, sure, I believe in God, there is no manifestation of that in their day-to-day life, and as such, it is irrelevant. If you do not act as if you believe in God, then you do not believe in God, to quote the great Jordan Peterson. Your beliefs have to translate into actions. And as such, we live in a world today in which this phrase has very much come true. Pen tishkach et Hashem Elokecha. The world has forgotten God. And as such, it is not surprising that then the manifestation of that can be cruelty, idolatry, adultery, all of the things that are the betrayals that come forth after that are unsurprising in the modern world. But the question is, what do we do as Jews who have one leg in the religious universe, as religious Jews, and one leg in the secular Western world, in which God is just not a presence? And I think one of the biggest challenges, and this is something which the great spiritual minds in Judaism have thought and discussed and written about ad nauseum, which is the balance between Kodesh and Chol, between being tuned in and being tuned out, between just getting on with the mundane day-to-day life, work, food, sleep, relationships, community, which has nothing to do specifically with the world of religion. You know, having breakfast in the morning is not necessarily a religious act. It is a secular, or maybe even just non-religious act, and the world of religion. And I think one of the things that Judaism really, really works very hard on is trying to bring God into our day-to-day lives. As it said in the Pasuk, Ubishmo tishabeh. We need to have God on our lips. That is why in Yahadut, in Judaism, every small mundane act is given deeper meaning. And that is often translated through the act of a bracha. We eat, we drink, we go to the bathroom, we get married, we have families, we bring children into this world. All of these things are accompanied by ceremonies, by texts, by phrases and statements and prayers and liturgy. And all of this is there for one main reason. Pen tishkach et Hashem Elokecha. As human beings who exist in this world, and specifically as Jewish human beings who exist in this world with a Jewish purpose, what is incumbent upon us is to try and understand, why are we here? What is the purpose of this universe? Why am I having breakfast? Why am I going to the bathroom? What is the meaning of life? Not just living life, but having meaning to life. We can very easily, and many of us do, just live life. And life goes on. Life does not need God. Because life goes on. But the deep truth is that God is behind everything in life. And the more we can tune into God, and by the way, I want to clarify, when I say tuning into God, that's not just being like kind of, holy and constantly, trying to bring shul into our lives, bring the Bet Knesset into, our bedroom and our kitchen. No, we're trying to bring meaning. Relationship with God is the relationship with truth, with purpose, with reason, with man in search of meaning. That is the relationship with God. God is the ultimate meaning of the universe. And if we can tune into that, we can very much stay away from the consequences that we just saw. Tisha B'Av, pain, just if, then, careful, beware that it will all come crashing down. So as we are entering into Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av, in which we start to kind of get up from the morning, get up from the ashes, right? Hitorri, we start to Nachamu Amit, we start to comfort ourselves and start to think about rebuilding and bringing the Jewish people together in a sense of rebirth and reconnection. What the bracha that I give us is that we remember to infuse every living moment of our existence with meaning and purpose. And the Jewish way of doing that is through the modicum of a relationship with Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.